No tournament series mirrors Melee's rise as an esport quite like the Big House. From a small grassroots event on a college campus to one of the most important events of the year with thousands of entrants, the event has grown exponentially since its first iteration. So let's take a look at the 6 events that have led us to the Big House 7, which is right around the corner. And before we jump into it, I'd like to thank Melee writer Edwin Budden, whose article series on the event, which is linked down in the description, helped significantly in creating this video. Follow him at Edwin Budding for more fantastic Melee articles. But without further ado, let's look at where it all started. Big House 1. Being a doc kid, I never got to fully experience the grassroots era of Melee. But paging through the results thread for the Big House 1 on Smashboards got me pretty close. Whether it's the post-tournament shoutouts from tourney attendees or just seeing big names like Hugs or Tafo casually replying in the thread, you can tell how different the Smash scene was less than a decade ago. But let's take a look at the event itself. One of the biggest stories of the event was local hero Duck, who made it all the way to winner semis where he lost to Lovage's Fox, who took the entire event, and then lost to S2J in losers, who took second at the event. Those losses are respectable when you take into account how well regarded Lovage and S2J were. According to Retro SSBM rank, Lovage and S2J were the 6th and 11th best players of 2011. Taking a game off both of them, as Duck did, was certainly impressive. And as a side note, Lovage's victory in Grand Finals over S2J marked the first time he beat S2J in 2011. Another piece of interesting historical context is that the Big House was among events like Beast 2 and Revival of Melee 4, which were a part of the Road to Apex 2012 series, in which stipends were given out to the highest placing player from each region at the event. Players gained points based on their placing at these events, which in turn affected their seeding in Apex. This draws an interesting parallel to the Big House 7, where the highest placing player who isn't already invited to Smash Summit will get a free invite to the event. Overall, the Big House 1 was a fairly large tournament for its time that brought in talent from regions all around the US and maxed out at 2,400 concurrent stream viewers. This set a solid foundation for the future of the event. Although the Big House 2 only had 13 more entrants than the previous year, there's a lot more high-level talent at the event. This time, 2 gods were in attendance, Mango and Hungrybox. The wildest story of the event came from Ohio Smasher Hanky Panky, who placed 9th at the event despite it being only his 2nd tournament he ever attended. He too owed both Westballs and Scar, only losing to Mango, SFAT, and Chillin. This is a performance I would imagine most players would be happy about at their 2nd ever event. The most talked about set from the event is easily Hungrybox vs Ryan Ford in winner semis, where Hungrybox went down 2-1 in the set after losing on Dreamland, but was barely able to clutch it out with a last stock rest that led to one of his notoriously aggressive pop-offs. However, this level of clutchness was not able to carry over in his sets against Mango, who double eliminated him in winners and grands finals with 2 convincing victories. Placing 3rd behind these 2 is another legend of the Smash community whose name may be unfamiliar to some new players, Fly Amanita. For those who may not know, Fly is an Ices player known to prefer flashy handout combos which he found easier to do than wobbling that was considered 8th best in the world in 2011 by Retro SSBM rank. He took out other timeless players on his way to 3rd like SFAT and Kirby Kaze. Dropped into losers by Ryan Ford, he ended up having to face the rough character matchup of H-Box in losers finals which almost ensured him to lose. And that's really about it for the Big House 2. Another solid tournament that was arguably ahead of its time with how smoothly the event was run, which is evidenced by how nearly all of the VODs all the way from pools were recorded and are still available to watch. The prestige that had grown to accompany the name The Big House grew even further after the series' 3rd iteration drew 3 gods to attend the event. One of the biggest storylines of this event followed one of these 3 gods, Mewtwo as he was able to take a major with 2 other gods in attendance. Mewtwo had not ever done this before the Big House 3, and on top of that, this was arguably Mewtwo's best win in a decade. This amazing win at the Big House 3 started off a hot streak of Mewtwo winning 15 tournaments in a row. Many at the time referred to this tournament as the Return of the King. This event is also the only Big House that PPMD attended. Here he placed 3rd and only dropped sets to the 2 other gods in attendance. His most memorable moment at the event comes from an infamous loss to Hungrybox, where after Hungrybox drops game 1, he puts on his headphones and starts rapping along to Kanye while winning the next 2 games and eventually taking the set. But then it's the same old story for Hungrybox after this win, as Mewtwo quickly 3-0s him in Grand Finals, which caused him to get 2nd place at yet another Big House. 2 names that stand out at the top end of placings at the event are Pika and Idea, who both finished 9th place tied with monumentally more well-known players like Scar and Kage. Pika is a Pikachu main from Tennessee who was number 1 on the only iteration of the Mid-South Power Rankings, who had some solid placings at his peak, like 13th at CO 2014. Although he retired in 2014, no one ever leaves Melee forever, and he's taken first and second at 2 locals this year that show he's still got it. Idea, who also placed 9th at the Big House 1, was a Jigglypuff main from Toronto who peaked at 7th on the Southern Ontario PR, but has since retired from the game. The Big House 3 was also the last major before Hack switched his main from Falcon to Fox, despite him finishing in an impressive 5th place. It becomes a lot easier to understand why this event might have pushed him over the edge after watching his 2 losses to Hungrybox and SFAT. In the set against Hungrybox, Hack's movement looks so crisp and clean as Falcon, but then Hungrybox just gets one opening and Falcon is completely helpless, which you can see manifest itself in Hack's expression every time the camera switches over to him. It happens again in the set against SFAT, as you can see Hax get up and shake his head after losing his last 2 stocks both to being shined off stage, and you can see exactly why he decided to switch mains. And so with Mewtwo starting off his winning streak, PPMD attending his last Big House, and Hax switching mains, the Big House 3 was a pivotal point in many of the biggest names' careers, but it was also a pivoting point for the event itself. The Big House was transforming from a well-renowned and respected tournament series to one of the most respected and well-renowned series among names like Genesis. The Big House 4 played an enormous role in elevating the series to nearly unmatched prestige that it has today. The Big House 4 is considered by some to be one of, if not the most important Melee tournament of all time. In its time, the Big House 4 was one of the largest Melee events ever, with 574 entrants, which was more entrants than the first 3 Big Houses combined. The amount of crazy upsets and interesting storylines also exponentially increased with the number of attendees as well, so we'll attempt to cover as many as possible. First off, we have Leffen, who was able to reach winners finals for the first time in an American major at his very first Big House. And he didn't just sneak his way into winners finals due to upsets, he had to beat Shroomed, H-Box, and Armada on his way there. He then proceeded to lose to Mewtwo and Mango, having him placed at a very respectable 3rd. Speaking of Mango, he was dropped in the losers after getting 3-0'd by Mewtwo in winners semis, but not before he disrespected Hax by playing and beating him with pink-colored Captain Falcon, which Hax made famous before he switched to Fox. In losers, he eliminated Lucky, Armada, and Leffen to make it back in the grand finals to get another shot at Mewtwo. But even though Mewtwo 3-0'd Mango in their previous set with Sheik, he decided to go Marth for both sets of grand finals, which allowed Mango to win both sets 3-1 and take the entire event. And with every great run like Mango's, there are always some players who underperform their potential. Axe, who was ranked 7th in the world in 2014 right behind Leffen, is infamous for underperforming at the Big House, and this began at his very first Big House where he was knocked in the losers by Mewtwo and he was taken out of the event at 9th place by 28th ranked Kells. But arguably the worst finish was Hungrybox's at 9th place. He was knocked in the losers after a close set with Leffen, and then he suffered a huge upset to Lucky, which led him to finish outside the top 8 for the first time since 2007. At that 9th place spot also with Hungrybox and Axe was hometown hero Kalamazoo, who was ranked 40 in the Melee and On Me rankings that year and went on a crazy run. After being knocked into losers at the very beginning of top 32 by DJ Nintendo, the Michigan Peach went off. He knocked 23rd ranked Kirby Kaze and 25th ranked MacD out of the event before he met a shaken Hax to make it in the top 8. They had an intensely close set that came down to a high percent last stock game 5 situation that Hax was barely able to clutch out. And those are just a handful of some of the amazing interweaving storylines that made the Big House 4 into the phenomenally important event that it is, which set a quite difficult act to follow for the Big House 5. The Big House 5 still stands as one of Melee's largest events by attendees of all time, sitting currently at 7th behind multiple Evos, Genesises, and the Big House 6. The Big House 5 also marked a big turning point in the event's history as it became the first event in the series to allow wobbling at the event. Jokel Kai himself said this was because it's too difficult to enforce and it's unfair to Michigan players who get no practice versus wobbling before they go to out-of-region majors. However, the biggest controversy looming over the Big House 5 was not wobbling, but Leffen's absence at the event due to visa issues. This was especially huge because of the summer 2015 Melee and On Me rankings. Leffen was considered to be number 2 in the world, which took a lot of hype away from the event with his lack of attendance. And without his fellow European in attendance, Armada was able to dominate the event in a similar manner that he does currently in 2017. He did not drop a single set at the entire event and only lost 3 games total during top 64. Much like other Big Houses, the Big House 5 had a first of its own that no one was expecting. This event was the first time a Luigi main was able to make top 8 at a major, which came through the amazing play of Pittsburgh's own Abate. His run started off with him 2-0ing Axe at the start of top 64, and then infamously barely winning in Game 5 versus S2J thanks to the invisible ceiling glitch. Then after getting knocked into losers by Mango, he faced off with Michigan local Duck, and somehow still had a considerable amount of the crowd on his side as he took him down 3-1. Shroom quickly 3-0'd him after this, but his 7th place finish was still cemented as one of the greatest Luigi runs of all time. He was not the lowest ranked player in top 16, with Swedish Delight sitting at rank 56, but his run is what defined the Big House 5 to many viewers. And besides that and a couple other upsets like unranked Michigan local Ginger upsetting ranked 24 Drug Fox, there were really not any other huge storylines at the Big House 5. It was just another smoothly run event that continued the legacy of the series. This brings us to the most recent Big House event as of the creation of this video. By 2016, the Big House had clearly become the third leg of the Melee Triple Crown, which also included Genesis and Evo, which was evident by the fact that 100% of the top 20 players were at the event. Ice's 3rd place finish at the event with all of this talent in attendance may seem absolutely amazing, much like Leffen's run at the Big House 4, but when you look at the bracket he had to face to get there, a lot of the majesty fades away. Ice was able to dodge playing Mewtwo King in quarters thanks to Silent Wolf upsetting him, and then was able to dodge the other god on his side of the bracket, Hungrybox, because of SFAT upsetting him. When he actually ended up facing the gods was when he dropped both of his sets at the event. This does not mean that this placing is still not very impressive, but it is much less so when you look at who he had to beat. At the 1st and 2nd places above Ice were Mango and Armada, who both accrued solid wins throughout the event and only dropped sets to each other. Mango came out ahead in the end and won his 3rd Big House after losing the first set of Grand Finals. Axe's streak of all 4 performances continued at the Big House 6 as he lost to Delaware's RD2 Lou and was knocked out of the event at 65th by Zoo. He was not even the highest placing Pikachu at the event, with Anther of Anther Ladder's fame finishing at 49th place. Leffen's messy history with the Big House series continued as well, with the event being the first major in America that he was able to attend in over a year due to his ongoing visa issues. He decided that he was not fully prepared to play at his full potential, and he decided to sandbag and mainly use Falco at the event, with which he was able to finish at a respectable 17th place. And lastly, we began to see hints of how high Doc Kid and Marth main Zane could rise as he was able to 2-0 plop in pools and knock KJH and the losers in top 64. And that's it for the Big House 6, and with that, the history of the event as of now. If the video has inspired you to head out to the event, spectator registration is available online until the weekend of the event, October 6th to October 8th. The Big House will be my first major, and I hope to see everyone else who's able to make it out to the event. And that's about it for this video. I'm going to try to make this as quick as possible, but I've got like a bunch of things to say because I know this video is already super long. So I'm sorry the video didn't come out on Thursday. I had editing for the school newspaper, and also yesterday I ran a Melee tournament at my school, which went really well. Got 2nd place, got bodied by a fox, but I don't want to talk about it. I want you to go over, if you haven't already, follow Edwin at Edwin_budding over on Twitter. There should be a link down in the description for that too. He helped out so much with this video, helped me proofread and fact checked a bunch of stuff. I really do appreciate it. Next week we should have players to look out for at GTX. I have opened a Patreon, but do not give money if you don't want to or you don't need to. I don't need the money. I say that all throughout it. It's just I would put this money back into making videos or being able to go out to more events so I can afford it. But don't do that if you really don't want to. Like, I don't need this money. Please do not. And if you want an idea of the awards, that sounds so hypocritical. I'm like, don't give me money. But hey, here's what you get if you do. $1, you get the videos early if I finish them early ahead of time. Sometimes I don't, sometimes I do. Usually it'd be like 6 hours to like a day before, and if you pick up on any errors, I would shout you on the video and be like, hey, thanks for making it look like I don't suck. Third and above would be, $3 and above would be every month I would want to do like a Patreon picked topic video that you guys would pull on within there. And then $5 would be a shout you out in a video. But I also put in that I'm up to suggestions, maybe like playing net play with you guys or doing something with a stream. I don't know. But I would be totally up for suggestions. But again, I don't need this money. Don't give me this money. Please, please, please. I can't express that enough. Unless you really want to and you really, really enjoy my content, don't give me money. And yeah, that's about it. Follow me over on Twitter at SaveAsUntitled for updates on stuff. And yeah, that's about it. I already said that. I've been SaveAsUntitled. I'll see you guys next time. Sorry that this video is too long.